Welcome to Mark D Maker. My name's Mark Taylor, and today we're going to be painting the side. There's a lot of tips and tricks in this video, and I'll even break out my airbrush. Come on over to the workbench. Let's get started. All right, so here's where we're at right now. Spent about 2 hours on this piece right here, just on trying to get these curved banners, the curved part of the banner in here. Sanding, smoothing it out. So now we're going to move to paint. And what I think I'm going to do, because this is going to go in a restaurant kitchen area, paint it with a clear Rust-Oleum there. I'm going to do the hat white, and I'm going to start off everything that's pine with a filler primer, and that'll make it really smooth, and then we'll start applying the colors. Welcome to my outside spray booth. I'm going to cover this whole sign with a clear coat of gloss. Oh, just in case it needs to be cleaned. Make it possible. Oh, what do we got here? This is Bruno. And he's so happy that I'm going to be working on a carving knife in the next video. Well, I think he got into the catnip. Alright, so we probably have a couple more coats of white to do on the hat. And what I'm doing here is trying to lay out to see where we want these flames. And we want these flames to emulate cooking. Maybe off of a grill, the flames licking up. And I want them behind the knives, but to be in the background. I'll work with that a little bit, just looking for placement, nothing's attached. Trying to see if there's enough space between here and here and here and here and the bottom. You don't want anything too close. You want to be able to give the eye a place to rest in between the objects, and for the objects to cast the shadow that they're going to cast. That's real important. So laying the blue tape out like this really gives you the availability to try to make a decision. And oh, I need to erase something. There's your eraser. Draw right over top of it. So with one of these, cut out this. And you get ready to paint flames. All right, we're ready for paint. And I'm simply going to use rattle cans, red, yellow, and orange, and paint in some flames. All right, so I came in with the red first, followed with the orange, topped with the yellow. There's a lot of different ways of making flames. Tons of different ways of making flames. This is the way I did it. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit and start to peek under the edges of the tape and see what we got. When I put down this paint, I put it down and just not one layer on top of another. I came back with the red, came back with the yellow, came back a little bit with the orange. So it's back and forth with the paint, spraying them wet into wet. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. Moving right along. Next up, we'll go paint the banner there, and the knives. Here we have iridescent, rich silver, and it definitely is a little different than most paints. It has a thicker, more sticky quality to it, but it has a very silvery look to it, so that's why I'm using it here. If you have flow medium, that would definitely help it to spread much easier. I'm using a Liquitex gloss black paint here, and it also feels a little unusual. I'm not used to painting with glossy colors, but it goes on and it looks decent, and I'm happy with the choice. So this Liquitex gloss does require 2 coats, let it dry, and then come back and do it again. It just seems to have some, even with a primer background on it, it seems to be, I don't know, slippery and non-adhesive in some areas. So just a little patience with it. Let it dry, second coat, and it'll be good. So far we're right here with it. And we've used I use this product called Rub and Buff. I learned about this by watching Adam Savage. And what it is, it's a combination of wax and oil. And when you put it on, you should feel how smooth that feels. It feels like a waxed car. It has different colors in it. This one's silver, oil paint, and wax. And so when you put it on, you let it kind of dry for a little bit and then buff it, just with it like an old t-shirt or a towel or something, and it makes it shiny. And it's a good way of simulating metal. So that's where we are so far. I need to put the wording in here, and the 2 little pins here, the brass color. I'm not sure what I'm going to use yet for this. I'm still thinking about it. I'm going to go on the computer and print out some nice font in the proper point size for this banner. All right, so we have the banner here, and I've gone to a printer and printed out the words that are going to be here. Now I don't have a stencil, so I'm going to make one. So I sprayed the back of these with the Super 77. This multi-purpose adhesive works great for that. And here I have just some regular shelf contact paper. We're going to lay this right on top of where we want. And then we'll start with the letters and put the letters on there. Now I kind of want this centered. Just press lightly for now, because I think I might want to cut each individual letter out. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll cut each letter out and space it out a little bit better so it kind of evens out a little bit. But you get the idea. All right, so we took the X-Acto knife, a brand new sharp blade, and cut out all the letters. Now we still have the plastic on there, the shelf liner, and that's going to act as a mask. And so now we can spray or stencil right onto here, and we should be good. So I chose to stencil, and am I glad I did. It came out really nice. Very clear, sharp. Putting the attention into carving with a very sharp new blade really paid off. And I'll just remove the center pieces out of the small e and the large a, and we'll be all set. Very pleased with the outcome. This is the first time I've tried this technique. All right, I'm going to introduce you to my airbrush in just a second. Before I do, I'm going to talk a little bit about tape. This is blue painter's tape. And this real thin 1/4 inch tape is very flexible. Maybe not very flexible, but it's more flexible than your thicker tape. And by the way, you could just take this, lay it out on a glass surface, and take your X-Acto knife and cut thin strips to get this thin tape. But I just bought this on Amazon because I use it so much. Works good for making flames or taping curved surfaces like this. Give you one consistent, straight line. So this helped in getting this curve, and then just go in with little pieces of tape and tape off your curves like so. So in airbrushing, masking is probably the most important thing. I'm going to be laying shadow in here and up in here. And if it wasn't masked, we wouldn't have any sharp lines. Now, to the airbrush. This is an Aztec. Let me get the box here so you can see it. In this little package. It's all plastic, and when I first heard of an all plastic airbrush, I thought, boy, how cheap is that? Boy. And then I've heard people talk about it and praise it so much. It's so easy to take care of. These nozzles simply unscrew, and the whole control mechanism and everything is in here. So when it comes time to clean an airbrush, which is the biggest pain there is, you would put water or airbrush cleaner, which just has a little bit of isopropyl alcohol in it. Isopropyl alcohol will is like a solvent to acrylic paints, and just shoot that through it, and that cleans the nozzle. You could add a little back pressure, and that shoots air back through the cup, so you don't want it full of much of anything when you do that, because everything comes back this way and out. But that's one way to get it good and clean. I also have one of these, which is a cleaning pot for an airbrush. You simply put the nozzle in like so and pull the trigger. I've seen these as cheap as $17. They used to be really expensive. I remember seeing these things selling for $60. And all it is, where'd that go? Here we go. All it is really is just either a plastic or glass jar and a little filter there. This shield catches most of your liquids, and so when you're cleaning and you're shooting paint and or maybe thinner through this, you're not getting particles in the air. They're landing in here and coming up through that little filter, and the filters are really cheap. You can buy a whole bunch of them online as well. All right, I am today using canned air. I do have a compressor, but just for such a little job. And my compressor is a large porta-cable, or it's a porta-cable pancake compressor. And instead of dragging that thing out and going through all the steps, this is just such a small job. I'll be using the canned air. And the thing with the canned air is it does get cold and it can freeze up as you use it. And so if you're doing, let's say, a bigger sign or a bigger piece than this, you'd put it in a pot of warm water, and you'll get a much longer spray time off of it, and the can won't freeze up. So here I have a picture. I printed it out of the sign, and to experiment with where I think the shading should go, I just penciled in some lines, and it kind of gives me an idea of what I'm kind of looking for here. So just thought I'd share that. Let's mix up some colors. I'm going to be using burnt umber and ultramarine blue to get a very black color. If you mix these 50-50, you'll get a very nice rich black that reflects color back. It doesn't absorb all the color. Try to get it as close to 50-50 as I can to start with. But then I'm going to add more brown to the mix because I want the warm colors to prevail in it. So you can see it's these two colors mixed, they get almost black in color. It's not a black. All right, so let's, maybe this will hold it. There we go. Let's unmask it, and then I will go around the edges. Now the tip I have in there is an effect tip. It has little spatters to it, so it's just the one I had in there, so it's a special effects tip. Let's hold this up so you can see the shadows there. Now what I'll do is, of Go around the very edge of it. Very lightly. The further something goes back away from you, the darker it is. There's a little bit of shadow here. I'll bring that. That'll be a nice effect. Okay, running out of paint. So this is how I load the airbrush up, just a little bit on a brush and literally just a couple of drops at a time. This little tiny cup doesn't hold a lot. There are other cups that you can buy that are jars that have this same connection to it. So you could fill up the jar if you were spraying something much larger. Whoops, got my hand into it. All right. A little bit right here, see if I can go real easy. Okay, there we go. Once you get started with the airbrush, it is hard to stop. You just keep wanting to go. So try to control yourself when you take out your airbrush. All right, so if you don't have one of those cleaning pots, you just take a napkin, paper towel, and blow it out. That's how you can backwash it, blow bubbles. And it's just that easy. Clean. So I figured out what I'm going to do for these holes in the knife, the support pins that go through it, through the blade shank. And this is just nail. Here's the rest of the nail. So I cut the heads off, and I drilled a hole here with a Forstner bit. I used to call them Foster bits, but they're Forstner bits. And I'll just use some Quick and Thick. It's a new glue by Type Bond. So far, I've been very impressed with it. It glues different surfaces together, like wood, metal, glass, rubber. It does everything. And I will glue them right into those holes, and it'll give it a nice shine in the middle of these black handles. I repainted the handles. They got a little scuffed up through all the movement. They look much better, and then I'll put them over here. And I'll show you the whole thing. There, my nails all glued in. And here is the sign. We'll just glue the boards on the sign, shoot some nails through it. We'll use small air gun nails so you won't see them. And the sign is done. Please like, share, subscribe. and I'll see you next time.